with a bunch of mediocre content here.
Yeah.
We already are seeing it, right? Before it
Not
gets
this
better.
one.
No.
Everybody, Peter Chun here with VaynerX. I'm here with Petter, one of our great research partners over at Ipsos. So great to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Amazingly pre-can fit, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. It's post-can fit, pre-can fit, you know.
Perfect timing is all that you need to know. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Petter, before we get into it.
I'm president at Ipsos of the Creative Excellence Group. So I lead our team who work with most of the biggest brands in the world in developing stronger and more effective communications. We do that using research, but it's up front, helping them with the briefs through testing in market.
And you all are running so many different tests. Any results that speak to this massive top-line conversation on this desire for all brands to be relevant? I mean, we know that brands have that desire to be relevant. We know not all brands have the right to be relevant.
Yeah.
What's the research show?
So what I would say is we've moved on a little bit. We've upped it from relevance. We talk more about empathy. Empathy is more about making that relevance on a personal and emotional connection. So
is that another way of saying you got to build trust? Is that a
yep,
safe? Okay.
That's in there as well.
Okay.
Empathy is like a two-way street. So you have to show empathy for your consumer, the general public, show that you understand them. But empathy also can be a brand being a bit vulnerable and showing them a little trueness about you as a brand underneath that. And that two-way thing can become really strong empathy.
And that's what the results are showing. So there's a level of authenticity, but authenticity also means showing that you are quote unquote human in a lot of ways, even as a big brand.
100%.
Right?
And it's we have something we call the Misfits framework, which is how we understand how advertising can be effective. And what we see in there is it's creativity and empathy. And when you deliver on both of those, so creativity by itself without empathy is that like weird in your face stuff that no one engages with. But when you layer in the empathy and the sort of unique creativity, that's where you sort of go way up in the score.
There is a lot of avenues in terms of where brands can go and build brand. They can do it through creators, they can do it themselves. We see a lot of the contemporary brands becoming production shops because they got to get an amount of content out. From your perspective, like what's the biggest missed opportunity that brand marketers are facing right now?
I would say there's two, and they're at opposite ends of the spectrum. So on the one side, it's leaning into content and just really getting into that entertainment space, branded partnerships, some cool stuff where brands are working with production houses, they're creating their own production houses, and really creating content that people want to engage with by itself, like just creating value, and then there might be some brand in it. On the opposite end of it, some of the work we're doing a lot on at the moment is in the retail media space, which has become very transactional. It's close to purchase, but there's actually room for branded stories and some branded occasions within that environment to stand out. It doesn't have to just be transactional. You can also build brands at that lower funnel area.
I love that. And obviously there's a full spectrum of CPG brands. You have incumbents that are trying to reinvent themselves, incumbents that are hanging on to their core products to stay relevant, kind of negotiating a lot with the retail media businesses. And you got these creators that are making their way in. Kind of any advice across those three to maximize and win quote unquote shelf space ultimately at the end of the day?
It's any and all at the same time, right? It's putting the right mix together for your brand and where you are. I think creators offer a huge opportunity because they lean more into that entertainment space, right?
Yeah.
So they're creating content that people want to engage with, and if your brand can play a role in that, all the better. Where people go wrong with creators is it's really obviously a look at camera, hold up shot. Sure. Please buy this product I was paid to promote to you. Like that's the stuff
and it's
that doesn't
super
work.
obvious.
But when you can integrate it into organic content, then you're going to get much more.
Which platforms do you think are under indexed today, kind of given where you see some of the results in some of the research studies, along with obviously relevance as a growing and evolving kind of word in terms of how it shows up? Where do you think in terms of platforms that you think are on the mend or have an opportunity or underpriced?
Yeah, I think, Meta's still the big one when it comes to anything in this space. I think TikTok is starting to get its respect, but I still don't think it gets the level of investment from brands that it should do for the reach that it gets. I think Snap is showing some really cool stuff in sort of the way that you can creatively use those formats. And then LinkedIn is massive now for B2B. And the thing about B2B is we always kind of try and put people in a box.
Yeah.
But you can market to me B2B, but I also buy a lot of stuff B2C.
Absolutely.
Like it's the same thing. And advertising works in similar ways. And the more you can lean into that.
That's also the best way to be authentic and credible, right? Is to know that an executive business decision maker is also a dad or a friend or a parent or whatever it might be.
Exactly.
And knowing how and where to reach is incredibly important. on a final note, we know you'll be at Cannes. I think you're doing some stuff on the stage. Yeah, can you
yeah.
give us a
So
little peek?
we are going to be on the stage inside the Palais talking about retail media. Some of the stuff I talked about earlier.
Yes.
We've got some evidence there to show that you can build brands and drive upper funnel metrics on retail media, but the creative quality counts. Same as anywhere else. You have to lean into it. So we'll be up on the main stage there. It'll be myself and global CMO of Mars. So come and see us if you're in Cannes.
We should do this again and talk about some of the stuff we spoke about here and see how much of that kind of makes it onto the stage. Last closing question. One big takeaway for you from Possible, anything that stands out?
I mean, again, that's why we're leaning into retail media. I think that's a huge front here. More and more of the ad tech space is moving into that. But what we're trying to do is reclaim some of that space for the creative agencies and for the brands. Don't just fall into lower funnel traps. So I'm interested in how that dynamic plays out here and over the next few years.
That's a great call. Building brands been a theme we've seen and heard a lot of over the last, call it 12 to 15 hours. And obviously, if you can build brand, you'll move everyone down the funnel. Retail media feels like a really great place to capture that conversion.
Yeah.
Peter, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward to your talk at Cannes.
Thanks a lot.
Right. We're here with Vita from LinkedIn, one of our most favorite platforms over at VaynerX. Vita, if you can just do a quick intro and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
I think we all know about LinkedIn, but yeah. You.
Happy to be here. I'm Vita Moles. I'm the head of editorial for the B2B Institute. We're a think tank that's obsessed with how to help B2B marketers grow, and really excited and honored to be here with you at Possible.
I mean, LinkedIn is so many product enhancements, feature updates. You guys had a spectacular new front just recently. Maybe you can give like a quick 1-2 punch on the new fronts announcements, just in case people here may not know.
Yeah, video is the place to be on LinkedIn, and we're really seeing that take off in a big way. Gary's actually one of our big voices, and we're honored to have him as part of that.
So, Vita, some of the audience may not know, but you spent time at TikTok.
I did.
Arguably the platform that has made the 9x16 vertical video. We call it the TikTokification. We really believe LinkedIn as a platform, especially obviously around B2B, but also candidly on great opportunities of connecting to consumers as well, becoming a very, very big part of it. Take us through kind of how video has evolved over the last year and how it is evolving, and maybe 1 or 2 go-dos for everyone that's tuning in terms of how to get started with video.
Yeah. Listen, I've gotten to see how video is sort of taking a life on its own when I was at TikTok, and we got to see really the rise of creators and that economy, and getting them to really hone their voices in their communities and build that. I think at LinkedIn it was an obvious sort of connection there, and what we're seeing is that in the professional landscape, video has the ability to be the voice of how we think about the platform. And
so 9x16, 16x9.
listen, as long as it's on video, I think that's where we're starting.
So big takeaway number 1, make more video content, not to say static or PDFs and carousels and that nature are not valuable. Just lead with video. You folks just recently came out with some research.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, please tell us about it.
Yeah, we're really excited to be talking about for the first time our credibility code. So credibility code is meant to unpack how B2B decision making actually moves. So it's not about reach and frequency anymore. It's really about driving that credibility across what we call the stack. So when you think about the stack, it really starts with brand. So brands have the ability to leverage thought leadership to bridge from top of funnel to conversion. Then it goes into employees, who play a super important role. Customers and peers that give that validation and recommendation, and then of course creators. And we think about creators as both those that are educators and thought leaders, but also executives who are huge to drive conversion.
I think we think employees as influencers is like a very, very big, it's a little heady, but just your employees become a massive distribution point that is so under leveraged by organizations. And we'll talk about creators in a sec, but you had mentioned employees.
Yep.
Can you expand upon that?
Absolutely. Some of the work that we've done at the Institute, we talk about it, the strategy of a drip effect, like how do you drip through the network, almost like sprinklers in your yard, if you will. What we've seen is that employees have 5 to 10 times the number of connections than an employee brand page has followers. So that's huge just when it comes to reach. Yet only 3% of employees are posting about their companies. So it's a huge opportunity, it's a huge upside. We know that they know how to speak to authentically to their audiences, but also people engage with them, want to hear from them, trust them, and they drive the credibility.
I think that's such a great point. Credibility comes from the employees more than the corporate company page, which is not to minimize, but it's a different effect, right? Practically, to provide some value to those that might be tuning in, what's your recommendation in terms of volume of posts that should happen on a weekly basis?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, listen, the frequency recommendations are the frequency recommendations, but you got to start somewhere, right? So I think where we're starting from is like, what should you be posting? How should you be posting? And we set up this DNA framework. So you define your creator, that's the D. We kind of talked about that. That's your thought leaders, that's your executives. And then the end, we get into the how. So the hook, to give you another one, the hook is really important, whether that's pattern like disruption. So here's my hot take, right? We've seen that on other platforms for sure. But also some of the other best practices are holding, like motion. The one that I think is really important when we get to the A is thinking about the brand. We have to anchor on the brand, and that's a little bit of a pun here as we're sitting on the Vayner yacht, but the brand has to be front and center and still part of the conversation.
Well, let's close on creators and influencers, and not to say that they're both the same thing, because creators, we believe, can help brands make content that they may post on their handles. Influencers, obviously, what we all knew them to be. We have a genuine hunch/belief that the B2B influencer is still on its way. Just maybe share a little bit of your thoughts in terms of, obviously, B2B's talked about on every platform, TikTok, Instagram, etc. A lot of people get their news, huge percentages. But in terms of just the pure B2B influencer, what are your thoughts on that? We're still not there yet. A little more ways to go. How close are we? And could the next person out here who doesn't have a big following double down and really become the next creator, influencer in that space?
Yeah, I mean, we're not there yet, but I think that the executives are the first way to get there. I think that if you look at executives, they're going to drive that kind of reach and authority in their audiences. I think that's critical as you're speaking on LinkedIn. And I also think that credibility that you're seeing from the executives, from like the corporate Natalie, who was at our new front, right? We're starting to see this budding, what I'll call edutainment, as we've talked about in the industry. And we're going to see it take off from here.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today. Post more video on LinkedIn, ASAP, and post a lot. I'm here with John from Pourware, an amazing company, and excited to get into it. So John, maybe kick us off a little bit. Tell us about Pourware.
Absolutely. Down here at Possible, representing Pourware Inked. We are a screen printing company that decorates drinkware from anybody from corporate buyers to wineries to breweries and e-com sellers as well.
And what part of the business is seemingly growing the quickest?
I'll start with the business that's not, is the alcohol industry.
Gen Z.
No, actually, e-com is actually blowing up and taking off for us. It's been a slight retraction with Amazon, but all of the other platforms, TikTok, as you know, right now is actually exploding with the affiliate armies and the influencers and all of those collaborations that are going on. That part is really, really exploding for us. So that's good.
And in terms of platforms, is TikTok the one that is getting the most amount of internal attention within the organization? And is that being reflected in actual business outcomes? Or is it more of like, hey, there's a lot of attention here, we need to be here, let's optimize and win, and then we'll start to constantly measure?
Correct. Yeah. Internally, TikTok, not so much for us because we're primarily B2B. But for our clients, TikTok is really where it's happening right now. It's going nuts. For us internally, our team, LinkedIn is really where it's at because it's B2B. I don't have to tell you that's where it's at. So a good portion of my day every day is spent just networking and cleaning up the DMs every day on LinkedIn. So that's where it's seen the most growth.
Amazing. And have you folks been looking into video on LinkedIn at all in terms of their vertical video product? And
it's funny you say that. Literally last week I was in Nashville at an AI conference and somebody sat me down and said that video on LinkedIn is the next best thing and you need to get on it. So YouTube Shorts and LinkedIn video is where I'm headed as soon as I get back.
Yeah, YouTube Shorts for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
The virality there in terms of the reach and the distribution, but it's also scaling you for a very competitive category on just answer engine optimization, right? And a lot of the Gemini results and some of the early studies led by Profound and some of the other players in the space are showing that type of just cited source coming from YouTube more broadly. Talk to me a little bit about, you guys have some new technology, proprietary technologies. So I would love for you to just explain that, and so that and obviously there's part of it which is some of you may or may not actually care, but the value in this industry is obviously very, very high. And I'd be curious if you can share how you start to think about getting that message out in terms of the channel mix that you have.
So we're omni-channel right now as far as our outreach and our socials and whatnot. But in 2026, again, like I was explaining, TikTok is really taking off. Some of the things that we're trying to focus with our clients is building a story, building a brand, not just a transactional throwaway gift or something like that. So where we've really been focusing on helping people is QR codes in the moment, call to actions during the experience. Some of the clients that we're working for are, again, on the different platforms, and they have these affiliates that are going out. Some of the beverage industry, I think it's huge in the beverage industry, coming up with college ambassadors and all these people that are boots on the ground and really pushing their product and creating that experiential commerce. I think is a really smart play.
I think that's such a smart call, and inherently it's like I can hear you talk about your strategies, and it literally intersects with a lot of our beliefs at Vayner, and VaynerX, and a lot of the entities underneath, because we care so much about building trust with consumers and
For sure.
having to make content that's relevant. Everyone talks about relevancy and authenticity, but at the end of the day, it is measured in views, right?
Sure.
And so you all are now making content with these, let's call it creators or ambassadors or influencers, but they have credibility,
Right.
which is why you're using them, right?
It's a grind finding the right people to tell that story. That's always part of it. My belief is probably centered around you. The big buzz here at Possible is AI, and what is AI? What can AI do for you? I'm going to take a step back and kind of take a pause, because I feel like we're all going to get flooded with a bunch of mediocre content here, and we already are seeing it, right? Before it gets better. No,
I know.
but I think that AI is going to be kind of till it gets sorted out. It's going to be a little crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fun thing about your business is in any life moment, whether it's personal or social or memeified, having an object now matters so much. It's almost like the moment gets immortalized, and you have obviously lots of different SKUs. How do you create the roadmap in terms of the next almost SKU or product to be able to customize in the beverage space? Like what's the process behind that?
It's not an easy process, I'll be honest, because glassware has been made for years for drinkware in general. A typical coffee mug really hasn't evolved over the years, right? So the stainless tumblers and whatnot, there's some newer brands and whatnot there, but we actually just came out with a proprietary beer glass that is a stemmed beer glass. Brewing industry has really fallen back on its like Belgian-inspired roots with pilsners and lagers, and this proprietary stemmed beer glass we came out with called the Charente. It really takes all the angles away that we've been living in since COVID. The brewing industry has been very angular and modern, and really trying to push crazy beer flavors and whatnot. So it's kind of refreshing to get back to our roots, and that's what actually made us and brought us to bring this latest and greatest launch out.
Very, very cool. In closing, just in catching up with you, you're like a pro at navigating Possible. Any tips, or the one tip that you would give someone who might be planning to attend next year on how to maximize this time?
There's a lot of content. There's a lot of stages. There's a lot of things. Do your homework before you come. I would encourage you to come and stay out of the lobby. It's really, really busy and loud.
I was just in there getting an extra cup of coffee. It is like madness.
It's insanity. It is insanity. But there's a lot of great people in there, and there's a lot of good networking to be had. So don't skip it.
LinkedIn, YouTube videos, obviously on your radar, and your approach around using these authentic college ambassadors, I think is so smart, inherently rooted in trust.
Yeah.
And we're so excited to kind of see how that business grows. Thank you for joining us today.
Appreciate you, Peter. Thanks so
All right.
much.
Thanks.
Take care.